One day, Evelyn's mother asked her son a question. "Next week, I have a follow-up appointment at the hospital. Would you mind going with me?" Her son, Jason, responded nonchalantly. "Mom, you're not a parent anymore, right? You can handle it yourself." Evelyn was left speechless by those words. The next day, Evelyn quietly visited the local municipal office and submitted a piece of paper. Termination of kinship. Notification. It was a formality, indicating the ending of family ties by her own hand. Evelyn Margaret was born and raised in a small suburb outside Chicago in 1952. Her father was a blacksmith, and her mother balanced household chores while raising 4 children in a post-war American family setting. As the eldest daughter, Evelyn learned patience from a young age, growing up with the notion that acting for others was a given. In 1978, she got married. Her spouse was a man from the trucking company where she worked, outgoing and loud-spoken but gentle at home. He often said, "Let's buy a little house together." But their happy marriage didn't last long. In 1980, while their son Michael was just 2, her husband tragically passed away in a highway accident during a long haul. The heartbreaking news arrived at 10 p.m. one night. A cold, gleaming helmet and the hospital waiting room were all that remained. Watching little Michael sleeping, without having said daddy yet, Evelyn made a vow in her heart. "No matter what happens, I'll put Michael through college and give him the strength to live without relying on anyone." From then on, she worked tirelessly. During the day, she was a contract clerk at the local town hall, sorting papers and answering phones. By night, she cleaned public facilities, and on weekends, she worked as a cashier at a local grocery store. Her sleep was reduced to 4 hours a night. Even still, she never skimped on making her son's lunch. She squeezed in time to attend his sports events, sometimes skipping lunch breaks to make it. Every penny for school, trips, uniforms, all came from her sacrifices and hard work. Her dedication paid off as Michael got into Northwestern University, eventually landing a job at a major bank, and by 2010, he got married and moved to New York City with his wife. "My parental duties are done," she thought. "My role now is just to watch over him." But then, in 2015, a surprising call from Michael changed everything for Evelyn. "Mom, we're a little short on the down payment for a mortgage." Without hesitation, Evelyn cashed out her lifetime savings of $150,000, meant for her retirement, and transferred it to Michael's account. "If this helps him have his own house, that's all I need." By 2020, an icy winter morning took an unexpected turn. She slipped in the bathroom and fractured her leg. At the hospital, Michael suggested, "How about moving in with us? Our place is big. My wife is on board, and it would make the grandkids happy. You'd feel secure not being alone." Those words were music to her ears. At last, she could live with her family. She envisioned spending her later years filled with laughter and joy. She left her apartment in Chicago, packed few belongings including cherished photos, and moved east with hope in boxes. By December 2020, Evelyn Margaret, at the age of 68, embarked on her second family life. However, it didn't take long for that life to grow uncomfortable. At first, she thought, it's just a matter of settling in. Yet slowly, the dinner hours scattered, conversations dwindled, and requests like, "Mom, could you keep the TV volume down?" echoed more frequently. Now, 3 years later, one word seemed to pierce through her heart: not a parent anymore. Evelyn began living with her son's family around 3 springs ago. When April arrived and cherry blossoms were in full bloom, the gentle sunlight warmed everything outside. Yet within Evelyn, an indescribable shadow began to grow, something that words failed to capture. Initially, the changes seemed minor. In the morning, a delicious aroma wafted from the kitchen. As Evelyn made her way to the living room, 3 places were already set at the table, and the family was already engaged in conversation. "Oh, Mom, good morning. Let me get you breakfast right away." "Just a moment, please." Despite being greeted warmly with a smile, Evelyn sensed something quietly. She hadn't been part of the initial plan. It felt as though her presence was unexpected. Meals began to arrive on separate plates. "We have different taste preferences," they'd say, preparing a unique menu for her. But the true reason, perhaps, ran deeper. Meals shared together weren't anticipated from the start. Gradually, Evelyn accustomed herself to disappearing discreetly. She would retreat to her room while the family watched TV, ensuring her evening baths were completed swiftly within an allotted time frame. She had begun to wonder, am I, by being here, taking away someone's freedom? That thought planted itself firmly in the cracks of her mind. Her room had no air conditioning. It would raise the electricity bill, was the reason they've given, as she faced a third summer without it. During winter, she relied on heating pads to keep warm, and in the summer, only a fan provided any relief. True, it wasn't a life-threatening situation. However, when such imbalances stacked up, it no longer felt like mere inconvenience. Instead, it resonated as a profound difference in the weight of existence. One afternoon, while she folded laundry as she always did, a breeze came through the window, gently swaying the curtains. It was then she overheard faint voices from the living room. Her daughter-in-law was on the phone. Yeah, she's doing okay, but, if I'm honest, it's been getting a bit tough lately. Because she's no longer my own mom, right? She's just my mother-in-law, and I think it's time she managed things on her own. Those words rooted Evelyn where she stood. The towel slipped off her lap, but she didn't even notice, her ears capturing every word, engraving them into her memory. Not my mother. Handle it herself. Time to. What did those words signify? They were a quiet proclamation that she was no longer necessary. That evening, after dinner, Evelyn returned to her room and opened an old wooden drawer. Inside lay a bank book from her days working in Chicago, filled with entries from her hard-earned funds she hadn't touched in years but continued to meticulously update. As she flipped through the pages, her eyes landed on a hastily scribbled note, penned with a blue ballpoint pen, "For my son's future. Until the day I am no longer needed." That note was written on the night her husband passed, as she resolved to raise their son, Michael, to maturity. She remembered thinking, I can't die until I see him stand on his own 2 feet. Reading that jot now, it didn't bring tears or voice, but a certain kind of resolve in her heart had taken form. I may have become unnecessary, but how I choose to value myself is not for anyone else to decide. That night, she drew out a notebook and wrote, "Living as someone's mother has been my life. However, I might now need to acknowledge the me who is no one's mother's on my own." With this quiet acknowledgement, she set herself on a path toward genuine independence. It wouldn't be labeled as tragic, but as an opportunity to finally live for herself. As Evelyn penned these words, she decided she would dictate her own life story beyond her identity as a mother, stepping toward freedom, one she hadn't allowed herself before. And perhaps, this could be the beginning of freedom. Under the light of the lamp, as she quietly closed the page, her eyes reflected a strange clarity. Being needed by others is certainly happiness. Yet, when you're not needed, not abandoning yourself, that too, might be the final dignity of a mother. It was Thursday, March 8, 2024. The morning held a lingering chill of early spring. Evelyn Sanders was transported to the hospital, lying now in a bed, a patient among patients. The night before, she had risen to go to the bathroom when a sudden dizziness overcame her, causing her to collapse back onto her bed. Her blood pressure soared past 180, with signs of mild atrial fibrillation emerging, compelling her doctor to order an immediate diagnostic admission to the hospital. Staring at the drip needle in her arm, Evelyn quietly closed her eyes. The image floating in her mind was solely of her son, Michael. I wonder if he's at work right now. He did mention being busy. But surely he'll send me at least a few words. Just as she was thinking this, her cell phone vibrated on her bedside table. Received, 11:47 a.m. No subject. She from Michael. Text, Mom, I heard about the hospitalization. Make sure to sign the papers yourself. Things are a bit hectic here. If anything comes up, reach out again. Take care. That was all there was to it. The sun's reflection off the sterile white hospital walls felt unusually frigid. Take care, he says. To whom, about what, and how do I take care? I am supposed to be the mother, and yet, in their eyes, I might not even count as a patient anymore. Later that afternoon, Evelyn's attending physician came to visit her. After explaining the test results and the need for a minor procedure, the doctor asked, "Can your family review the surgical consent form, please?" Evelyn paused momentarily, unable to find the words. The term family, it felt distant, as if covered by a veil of mist. Lowering her gaze, she eventually responded quietly, "No family, I'll handle the consent myself." The doctor raised an eyebrow in surprise for an instant, but then nodded in understanding. That night, after lights out in the ward, a quiet spring rain pattered against the window outside. The gentle snoring of other patients filled the room from behind the curtains. As Evelyn reached into her bag, out came a white envelope. Within it lay a formal document, termination of kinship notification form. She had obtained it from the local municipal office, an official document. Though it carries no legal binding, this termination of kinship notification acts as a formal declaration, allowing the administration to stop informing families about certain relational statuses, recognizing a break in familial relations. It's mainly designed to document cases such as domestic violence or situations where family ties have severed, through which the city records the declaration and potentially reduces further legal communications. As her fingers traced over the form, her thoughts drifted to her past, losing her husband, raising a child alone, whipping up boxed lunches, paying tuition. She lived each day thinking, as long as my child enters society, that'll suffice. And now confronted with a mere take care from her son, Evelyn felt the final shimmering light of her identity as her son's parent, softly starting to flicker out. When did I last count as a parent? Was it at their birth? Or when they got into college? Perhaps when I financed the down payment on their house? And now? In Michael's eyes, if I am no longer his parent, perhaps I too can choose, of my own will, to end being his parent. With trembling fingers, Evelyn began to slowly fill out a section of the form. Tears did not blur her eyes, nor did her hands tremble. As the rain lulled her to drowsiness, the sheer awareness of standing alone became intertwined with a rare sense of liberation. After scribbling her signature at the document's foot, Evelyn looked out into the rain, a blanketing silence spreading across the hospital floor. In the downpour's rhythm, she imagined conversations between raindrops, a chorus narrating tales untold, dialogues once exchanged, letters sent and unsaid, free now to be scattered across the earth. Fragmented, gentle showers that would at last unburden her tired heart, and therein, a whisper of freedom murmured true. In the stillness of the night, Evelyn stepped forth, embracing an era of her life where the strings of another's expectations no longer dictated her journey. She smiled at the moon's constant gaze, her newly found solitude beginning this uncharted path, guiding Evelyn toward her next steps in the dance of autonomy, where each motion is hers to choose, each breath hers to cherish. Thus unfolded an invincible hope. To live? To ever breathe the life she now recognizes as fundamentally her own. Name, address, date of birth. In the section for reasons, she wrote a single sentence, due to a strong desire expressed by the individual concerned. I wish to terminate all familial relations from now on. This decision is made upon receiving a declaration of no longer a parents from the other party. She placed the completed document into an envelope and tucked it gently into her chest pocket. Outside the curtains, the night deepened into darkness, while she quietly murmured to herself, I'm not ceasing to be a mother. But for a child who doesn't require being a parent, I think I'll stop being one for their sake too. The next morning, after finishing her discharge papers, Evelyn Sanders headed straight to the municipal office. In her hand was a small envelope. Inside it was a single piece of paper acknowledging the termination of relationship. She had recognized herself. On the second morning post-discharge, Evelyn stood in her kitchen at home for the first time in a while, boiling water. The living room was quiet, as always. Nobody said, "Welcome back," but she felt accustomed to it by now. There was no discharge celebration, no dining table set, no greetings. Yet more than that, what unsettled her was nothing was asked of her. That afternoon, Evelyn took a deep breath and broached the subject, pouring coffee and sitting across the table from her son. If someday I end up in a facility for seniors, we might want to talk about the procedures, the guarantor issues, and such. Her son looked up from the papers he was engrossed in, with an expression as though he thought, "Here comes another troublesome talk. Mom, you need to decide that stuff for yourself now. I have no rights over that anymore. If you can manage, then do so, and if not, maybe you should consider home care services. Honestly, there's nothing more we can do for each other." Upon hearing those words, Evelyn felt something softly crack within her chest. No further words were exchanged. She did not cry or rage. Inside her, however, there was a growing certainty that it's all over. A feeling that expanded slowly, yet surely. That night, she quietly packed her things and, the following morning, made her way alone to the municipal office. In her spring coat pocket, there lay one envelope. At the reception counter, a smiling clerk asked, "How may I help you?" Evelyn bowed deeply, carefully laid out the documents she had prepared on the desk. A copy of the resident certificate, her identification document, a driver's license, termination of kinship, notification, application receipt. At last, she added a letter and said, "This is my final statement to submit as a mother. Could you please just accept and record it?" The letter was written as follows. To City Office Administration. For many years I have lived as a single mother, raising my son, supporting him, dreaming for his future. These remain my pride, and I have no regrets about them. However, my son recently declared I am not a mother, and expressed a desire for zero involvement in his future life. I have chosen to end that relationship myself. Being a mother does not mean unconditionally forgiving or accepting everything. As I finally come to understand now, I am a mother, but I am also a person. I, too, have the right to be respected. After reading the letter, the clerk nodded quietly and said, "Though the content holds no legal force, we will accept it as a record," before responding. Thus, Evelyn stood, having signed the document that declared a break with her. Familial connection. She understood this act did not change her memories or emotions as a mother. Yet, for the first time, it ushered in a clarity and sense of self-respect she had long denied herself. The story of Evelyn Sanders reached a moment of profound realization where she grasped not an end, but a new beginning. As Evelyn left the office, the spring breeze carried with it the scent of blooming magnolias, a perennial promise of renewal. She walked forward into her newly defined future with courage, dignity, and a heart lightened of its burdens. And in her newly embraced solitude, she found the authenticity to navigate life on her own terms. The narrative of separation, acceptance, and transition wore the quiet grace of an understated epic, a saga of rediscovering personal worth and individuation, rising from the dissolution of assumed roles. Evelyn's journey was as subtle as it was profound, as common yet unique as any life can be. Indeed, these steps took her beyond being only a mother to embracing the sovereignty of being herself, an awakening to the tender resilience residing within. At that moment, Evelyn Sanders accepted what it meant to fold away the bonds of parenthood freely for the first time. As she walked homeward, the gentle spring breeze playfully teased the hem of her skirt. Along the way, she paused, drawn by a vending machine, and opted for a warm can of coffee to sip on. Holding the can in both hands, she whispered softly to herself, words meant only for her own ears. "I didn't stop being a mother. I simply chose to hold on to my dignity as a person in places where I'm not seen as a mother." That evening, in her small journal, she penned a brief note. "I never imagined the day would come when I'd end my role as a mother. But choosing this end myself feels much warmer than having someone else bring it to a close." On an unspecified day in April 2024, the municipal office officially accepted the termination of kinship notification Evelyn had submitted, marking it in their resident record system with a notification restriction. This meant from then onward, Her son would not receive notices related to administrative procedures or inheritance concerning her. In essence, it was a formal acknowledgement that their familial relationship had been categorically divided even in the eyes of the law. In the days that followed, Evelyn moved into a residential facility designed for independent elderly individuals on the northern outskirts of the city. It offered individuals 6-foot rooms, a communal kitchen and bathing area, along with basic medical support twice a week. The resident contract with staff featured the entry, "Emergency contact, none," marking the true beginning of solitary living. Yet, she didn't feel lonely. From her window, Evelyn could see a park nearby. The sound of laughter from children playing, rustling leaves in the spring breeze, and the chatter of passing high school students reached her ears. One day, Evelyn discovered a flyer posted on the community board within her new building. "Volunteers wanted for the community library. We welcome storytelling and shelving. Help for children." Without hesitation, she filled out the handwritten application. Her library volunteer work was scheduled twice a week. Initially, her duties involved arranging bookshelves and overseeing the lending log, but she soon found herself entrusted with reading picture books to children. Evelyn's voice was gentle and expressive. Her storytelling resonated warmly, as if assuring others of her belief in them. It exuded a supportive warmth that comforted others like a gentle embrace of trust and care. Then, one afternoon, she found an envelope in her mailbox. The sender's name was written in familiar handwriting, Emily, her granddaughter. Inside, there was a brief letter and a package containing an origami set she had gifted before. The letter read, "Dear Grandma, thank you for the origami you gave me the other day. We are currently learning about kindness at school. When our teacher asked, 'What does treating something as precious mean to you?' I told her, 'I'm sad that I didn't get to say thank you to my grandma. I miss you, Grandma, but knowing you're somewhere being strong makes me feel stronger too. Can I write you again? Love, Emily?'" As Evelyn finished reading, she didn't cry out. Instead, she held the letter to her chest, closed her eyes, and inhaled deeply over and over. "Even if I'm no longer a parent, as long as there's one child who cares for me, my journey continues." That night, she wrote a short reply, "Dear Emily, your letter brought sunlight to my day. I am grateful you're learning about kindness. You must always know that thinking about others is a gift all on its own. Please write me more. I'd love to hear from you, always. With all my love, Grandma." In this newfound chapter of her life, Evelyn realized that while she may have stepped away from being a parent in the traditional sense, the love and connections she fostered were enduring. Their resonance, a testament to the depth of her impact on those she cherished. For Evelyn, life was about to unfold in vibrant hues she hadn't dared to dream of in her years of silent perseverance. "I've read the letter you sent. It was so well written, it truly made me happy. Compassion is remembering someone, keeping their cherished feelings safe in your heart. That's what it means to me. Feel free to write anytime. I also think of you as very dear to me. Take care. Sincerely, Evelyn Sanders." The once broken line between parent and child now seems to weave along, connecting in dots to the next generation. This moment resurfaced a poignant understanding. Meanwhile, during the same time, Evelyn's son received another official letter from the Department of Justice. "It is recorded that you do not hold any rights concerning inheritance or property matters. For the current contact information or duty of support, agreement among all parties involved is required." Despite multiple attempts to call him, unable to connect, a single-line reply came hours later when a message was finally sent. "The mother you referred to as a stranger's has silently agreed with those words. I'm not angry. I just took your words as they are." This wasn't a reproach or a curse, just the serene declaration of someone who accepted the truth. That day, too, within the quiet of the library, Evelyn Sanders gently read books to the children. Outside, spring rains pattered against the earth, with only the sound of raindrops faintly echoing outside the window. "Having someone read to you is nice. Perhaps this is what being cherished truly means," murmured one little boy. to which Evelyn smiled as she closed the book. A child who knows they are cherished can grow to be an adult capable of cherishing others. To the listener of this story. How many mothers live today as a name only, with their children? You're not a parent anymore. You need to handle things yourself from now on. Could you imagine how deeply such words leave behind a loneliness in a mother's heart? A mother isn't a guarantor meant to provide a house or a wallet or a just convenient adult. They simply want to love. They simply wanted to be loved. To be seen for who they are is the only reward they ever desired. Davy E. B. Because you're a mother, you should bear it. It's natural for a mom to give way. Care in old age is your responsibility. If that is society's sentiment, then at least now, let your voice be heard. A mother is a person too. A simple, "Thank you for being here's" can fulfill years' worth of emotions. Right now, if you have the land deed or bank book in your possession, ask yourself once, is this person seeing me as mother, or seeing me as just name and estate? The person to whom you entrust your future can be someone connected by heart, and it's perfectly fine for them to be more significant than blood ties. Evelyn Sanders speaks, I am no longer a parent. But before those who truly see me, I can become mothers again as many times as needed. I would rather be a mother who lives in their hearts than one who is only a parent by name. If this story has moved the someone you care for within you, please share that thought with someone. Right this moment, there might be a mother somewhere in a small room, contemplating, what does family mean? And perhaps, she still hesitates to sign a single application form inside an envelope. So, Mom, it wasn't the estate I wanted to meet, it was you as a person. That single phrase might just work magic to rekindle the essence of being a mother in her once again. Sick. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, we encourage you to like or share it with others. Doing so will help support mothers who have yet to raise their voices, marking the beginning of their journey. We eagerly look forward to meeting you again in our next story. Until that cherished day comes, may all your precious things remain ever intact.